Good evening, everyone, and welcome to second 2015 episode of 2015 2025 episode of Minutes to Midnight. There's a great start. So my guest tonight is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. James Conway. James, how are you keeping?
I'm very well. How are you?
Grand, better getting completely and utterly tongue-tied there with me. I suppose I should do more pre-show prep, but I kind of like it rough and raw. So it's just throw it out as is and roll with the mistakes.
You're all right. It would be no harm to go back to 2015.
I know, yeah. Jesus Christ, fucking hell, yeah. Different times. How are you keeping?
Very well. Very busy up here, thank God, and progress being made all sides. Getting ready for the windy day on Friday, and that's it now.
As I said to you earlier, have you all the sheep tied down? Lads. Anyway, look, it's for people who might have forgot, we used to have bad weather in this country. You know what I mean? And it was a case of you just got on with it. You put your wheelie bins around the side, and you might put a stone on top of them, and you tie down the trampoline, and that was it. But anyway, look, this is the world we live in now. So,
well, I was watching the other night weather report. I think it was in the late 90s, and there was a storm coming. And it was amazing to see the man. He just basically says, we're expecting heavy winds, so act accordingly. And he kind of presumed that the people watching the weather weren't idiots, that they might stay inside, you know. There didn't seem to be the need of a red warning to try and tell people to stay inside, you know.
Yeah, fact. But sure, look, this is the world we live in. This is the nanny state that we've allowed to be created, where you're told what to do, you're told what to think. So look, anyway, we're going pushing back against it anyway, and that's what we're going to talk about. You have a fantastic idea. Conway's Farm is probably one of the most famous farms in the country now at this stage. So tell us what you're at.
Well, we're going to have a meeting on Sunday, but the idea behind it is to start up farms all over the country eventually. Where skills exchanges can take place, where men who are block layers and plasters and different tradespeople can exhibit their trades and get people to learn them. And then also ladies who are good bakers and jam makers and stuff like that, that these spaces are created for those skill exchanges to happen. And then also that on each of these farms, there will be food produced, good chemical-free food, so vegetables. Now, there's a man in America that I'm very fond of, Joel Salatin, and another lad in Sweden, Richard Perkins, and I'm basically modeling off both of them. So you have small mobile units for small animals, and then rotational grazing for sheep. Now, I don't want to be accused of being a green, but I started looking into alternative farming probably 6-7 years ago, and there's a system called permaculture, which is all rotational grazing. And the only real difference between it and conventional farming at the moment is you graze the grass quickly, but not to the butt, and then move them on. And with this, we've been able to cut thus far our fertilizer requirement by probably 95%. The only fertilizer that we use now at the moment is if we're going for a second cut of silage. And most years we don't have the requirement for the second cut of silage, because usually the first cut is so heavy through this rotational grazing that there's no real requirement for the second cut. So I think this will be the first year that there is absolutely no fertilizer spread. But the last 4 to 5 years, there's been very little fertilizer spread on any of the grazing ground whatsoever. So it's a system of farming that's it's not organic. It's not described as organic. It's better than organic, because organic with the certification comes with limitations as well. So there's certain things you can't do with organic farming that with this you can do. And yeah, it seems to me the most appropriate system for Ireland, is permaculture.
But sure,
And then
take green nonsense and all that kind of stuff out of it. Like just from an economic point of view, you don't have to spend money on fertilizer.
that's it. And then there's another aspect of it too, that you are reinvesting some of the extra money that you've made into things like fruit bushes and apple trees and stuff like that. And, you know, basically what you're doing is every year adding value to the farm. So at the moment there, I have an honesty box. You'll see it when you come up on Sunday. Now, it's bare this weather because most of the hens have made their way to the freezer because they were old hens. So we'll be renewing the flock shortly. But we're selling eggs there in the honesty box. And then when we have apples, we're selling the apples in the honesty box. And I have a hazelwood, and I'd be cutting hazel sticks for hiking sticks for tourists. And it's amazing. I put probably 30 to 40 hiking sticks in the barrel there in the summer season. And I know a lot of the neighbours would be looking at it and thinking, who'd buy a stick? There was only 3 or 4 of them left. Do you know? And just basically things like that. But what I really want to do is to give people who are not involved in farming, or someone who has their heart set on getting involved in homesteading, basically to set up places where they can learn these skills and get their hands into the earth once again. Do you know?
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, sounds brilliant, and just my cup of tea. My long-term plan is to, you know, those crazy lads that wear the long johns with the big beard and they just live in a cabin by a lake. Yeah. So that's my life goal. If I can achieve that in the next 15 years now, I'll be very, very, very happy. There's loads of modular homes knocking around the country. I intend to steal. I'm going to steal one and bring it up the side of a mountain.
We have a couple initial projects, but what you're after mentioning is something that I was contemplating. And I have a bit of land down by the river that isn't utilised too much, and I always said that was a place for a cabin. So if there's a good crew of fellas that get involved, I think between us all we could probably get a cabin up, and then, you know, do it on a rotation. It's your weekend this weekend, it's my weekend.
Look. The reality is that we can't live on fresh air. You have to monetize these things. You know what I mean? And there is a market. There is a market for that. Like, you know, and that's, people don't like talking about money, but the reality is that we all need it. You know what I mean? And if you can monetize something, you need to do it, because the likes of you is going to reinvest it back into something else, or another project, or another idea, or extending the farm, extending the offer, and I think it's a fantastic idea. I know a bit about farming, but not a huge amount. As the next door neighbour down here had a farm years ago, and I would milk for him. And my young fella works in a farm. My young fella's pure agri, as the young fellas say. That's all he wants to do. So he loves it. Never stops talking about it. But I grow stuff at home, and I played around with different things, what to grow on the side where I live, and do you know what I mean? What can I tell you? Bar they've fairly low nutritional value. I can grow mean courgettes. They're fucking massive, and they grow nearly all year round. Like, you know what I mean? They're unbelievable, and spuds as well. But everybody has potential to grow. You can get a small bag, put dirt in it, and you can grow stuff in it. You know what I mean? That's it. That's all you need, and people don't realize how easy it is.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what we want to show. So we'll have the conventional style of growing veg, which will be ploughing and harrowing and then making the ridges and the drills. But we'll also do raised beds, and we'll do a kind of a mimic urban farm to show someone that if you had the small garden out the back in the estate, or that, just how much you could actually grow out of that place, you know. And like myself and Darren is the man doing the podcast with me. If you've seen the podcast, it's him. Does the recording and does the editing and does the sound and the lighting and all of that. And basically what we said is, we'll start this up and we'll tell people all of the courses that we do on site, or that we're going to record and put them up on the Patreon. And the Patreon is €5 a month. You know, that's all it is. I think it's about €6 when the Patreon takes their fees and that out of it. But for that €6, you'll be getting the podcast every week, the extra bits of the podcast, and these courses that take place on the farm. So
Brilliant.
I,
Oh,
as I,
absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
and it's not overly expensive, but that means that if you're in Dublin or England or Australia or Canada, you can see what we're doing and you're contributing a little bit to it. And like every 10 subscribers is a bucket of paint, do you know? And that's
Yeah.
the ways to kind of look at it.
Oh yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's a fantastic idea. Putting all that content up there for people to people to have. And I suppose you can get people from outside then to contribute as well. Like, I mean, I know some groups that would be very, very happy to contribute information, because we were talking about doing similar things. I don't know what you think about, with say, survivalists and stuff like that, and prep bags and go bags and all that kind of thing. That'd be my
Oh yeah,
kind of forte. So it's kind of a case of, I'd like to. There's a guy who reached out. He runs the Prepper or Survival Ireland Facebook page. So I reached out to him and I said, look, would you be interested in doing something and making a video and showing people what you need in your car in the event of emergency, or you know what I mean, if you had to leave your house, what you know what I mean, what's good to have in the bag, you know what I mean, or even just to, if you've ever felt like just taking off and driving somewhere out in the middle of nowhere and just pitching up a camp, what you need to have with you. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
I love that stuff now. It's a good idea. That and hunting now, and archery as well. I don't know. I found bows and arrows.
I've often wanted to do it. Now I've done a bit of shooting, all right, but I never used the bow and arrow. But what
I'll bring it. I'll
you
bring it
know,
up. I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up on Sunday.
oh
There's
good,
some,
I'll have it.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. There's some crack with it now. It's good fun. And listen, you'll be surprised how quick you get good with it.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want. Well, with the survival thing, what we're intending to do with that is to have weekends of that kind of training, and you know, basket making,
Oh yeah, yeah.
vegetable planting, and then as well as that, all of the animals. So you have a pony, a donkey, sheep, goats, poultry. That there's a weekend where people can come up, you know, and I will go through everything: what they eat, how you house them, signs of sickness, and then with the sheep and goats, how to mind their feet, how to keep an eye on their teeth, how to age them. Then with, you know, we'll go through every animal, what type of shelter you need for them, what they eat, their cycles, as in how long it is for them to have young, and how long we will go through every bit of that. So that's what we're aiming for, is to get these keystone farms around the country eventually. It's starting on my one in Sligo, but we do want to bring it closer to people. So like what I'm saying to people and what I will be saying on Sunday is start in Sligo, and hopefully by the end of the year that there's one in each province. And then what we're aiming for is go from each province to each county. And it won't happen overnight, but it
Oh yeah,
will
yeah.
happen.
Yeah, these things take time. So let's go back talk about the food then. So like I have a very simple diet. I eat meat, I eat butter. I don't eat a lot of bread because I don't trust a lot of it. I eat veg and potatoes, and that's pretty much it. It's a very simple diet, because I think
Yeah.
our food is poisoned, and our food is cause a lot of the problems: cognitive ability, cancers, just general people being unhealthy, being overweight, being, you know, I even think it affects people's moods. I think depression and things like that could be linked to our food supply as well, because it's very hard to get clean food. Um, so, you know, you talked about these farms. You know, will they have the ability in the long run to be able? My ideal would be that I have a local farmer in my area that I can go and say, I need some beef, please. And he will go, yes, there you go. There is some beef. And I will say, thank you very much. And I will give him either money or something that I'm trading to him. And then I
Yeah.
know a lad who's making bread. You know what I mean? And I go to him, and the same principle. Do you think that's actually possible to do in
Oh,
this country?
100%. So if you take something like the Joel Salatin broiler chicken pen, that is a pen that will contain 60 to 70 birds that's moved to a new area of grass every day. So instead of a battery cage hen where they're pumped full of crap, you have good feed being given to them and they're on new grazing every day. It's moved on every day. Now, for that pen to be used effectively, you're talking about a quarter to half an acre of grass to bring the 70 birds to market. So what I'm perceiving is that each of these farms will have a couple of those pens, and the men that's involved, and men and women that are involved in running it, will be producing chicken constantly. And then we onto rabbit as well. Another thing that's easy grown, quick turnaround. They breed, as we were saying earlier, they breed.
Right, they do.
When we have a group of people, now you're in a situation where you pool together from each farm the meat that's available, that each week you have a pool of meat to take from. So at the moment, the trouble with this at the moment is most farmers have gone to just producing cattle, or just producing sheep, or just producing dairy, or just producing pigs. There's no farms where you have all of the animals like what happened years ago, because they're no longer viable. But if you have 32 farms, you've changed the game, because each farm has animals available at a different stage. So with a bit of good management, we could have it that maybe 5 pigs per week are being slaughtered for our own usage, and we know exactly what they've been fed. We know exactly that they've been kept in good conditions, good welfare, all the rest of it. And one of the things as well, though, a lot of people get on about the department, and the department are and all this. They're not really. For a pig herd number, what you need is a clean sty, good water, and basically, a fence that they can't get through.
Yeah.
The system that we'll be operating is the clean sty, the clean water, but the fence moves, that they're put on new ground every 2 or 3 days. So what we're doing is actually better than the department's regulations or guidelines. So a lot of, I hear a lot of people when you mention farming, and they say, oh, you can do nothing, the department has you caught everywhere. But the truth of the matter is, if you're doing a better job than they are even asking for, they tend to leave you alone. Do you know?
Yeah.
So we're in a situation out here. I've had one inspection, and they were very impressed with how everything was being done, because it was being done in a friendly way. There's no problem. You fill in your censuses and all that. I know people are on about paperwork and all that, but it's not hard to do. It's not hard to do.
Sure, look, like most things, people make bigger deals out of things, and sure, look, nobody likes paperwork. nobody even likes signing their name to it anymore. But look, it's a reality of the world that we live in. Do you reckon you get much pushback? Let's just say this gets traction, right? And you start giving people a lot of independence, because once you don't have to rely on the supermarket anymore, and you don't have to rely on, you don't need government for anything. They don't like that.
Well, look at we're a long way off that. Do you know? My goal, first and foremost, my goal is that at our second, so we're having this meeting. I'm outlining the projects that's to be done to get the seeds in the ground, get the chicken pens done, all that. Then there's a midsummer's meeting. So what I'm aiming for is that at the midsummer's meeting, there's meat and vegetables that we have produced ourselves to eat. Do you know? Then harvest festival at the end of the year. So the idea that everyone is going to be mass independent straight away, I'd be telling people, get it out of your head. I have to, what my main goal this year is to give people the skills that on their own place, they can become self-sufficient themselves. That's the main goal. Down the track, the people that don't have the ground themselves, that there's enough food being produced that they can get good quality food. and we take it from there. It's all little steps towards not needing the supermarket. That's the steps that are needed. But the likelihood of not needing the supermarket before this year's end for everyone, it's non-existent. It won't happen that quick. But if we have people who genuinely come on board and attend the courses or watch the courses online, we will be able to show them how to get your little patch done. And that's, if we can create a couple percentage of the entire population who are self-sufficient, that's brilliant. In my book, that's brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. I suppose it needs to be said as well that there are actually a lot of local butchers. People mightn't realize that this, like, but there's a lot of local butchers who actually have farms, and they're actually okay. So if they send the animals away to be slaughtered, but they're selling their own meat. You know what I mean? And I think people need to use their local butcher an awful lot more. That the like, I'd like to see the end of the supermarkets in Ireland. I mean, I know it's pie in the sky, you know what I mean? But I'd like to see it gone. I'd like a bread maker in every town and village in Ireland, and I want the local butcher to be your source of meat. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want something fancy, you can fuck off to Dublin and get it. but outside of that, because I think clean food would solve a lot of our current problems from a health perspective.
Well, as well as that, Martin, we don't want to fall into the trap of thinking that we're competing with the supermarket. We're not. The supermarket is selling absolute crap. So what we're doing is becoming an alternative. It's like a lady came up to me in Knock, and she had heard about the idea, and she says, I love your idea, but I was at a farmer's market, and it was €2.25 for a head of cabbage, and I can get them in the supermarket for €1. And she kind of goes, I have a family to keep and all that. And I says, yes, but what chemicals was on the head of cabbage in the supermarket? And she didn't know. And I says, what country was the head of cabbage in the supermarket from? And these is the questions that we have to be asking ourselves, is to say, does everything boil down to €1, or does it boil down to your health, your quality of life, all of that? So, as I said, I don't want to fall into the trap of people thinking, oh, well, they're in competition with the supermarket. We're not. What we're offering is far superior product. Do you know? And that's it.
Yeah. Well, so look, I know myself. I know when I buy meat from my local butchers versus what comes from the supermarket. And I in a previous life I used to be a chef. So if we have produce to cook, I'll cook for you at one of the festivals. I've done the meat comparison tests and stuff like that of what you get that I know was an O'Brien's farm and versus what you get, and I've let them rot, and I've let them discolor, and I've cooked them, and you know what I mean. So there's no comparison, and like I said, it's we just need to go back to a very, very, very simple diet. That's what we're genetically disposed to. You know what I mean? As Irish people, and we are a people. That's something that needs to be said as well. We're not a country or a nation or a passport. We're a people. The Gaels have a very distinct genetic line, and we've a distinct digestive. It's the same as the Japanese and the Asians. You know what I mean? They still can't do dairy well. You know what I mean? Because their bodies just aren't designed to take in dairy. We're the same. Our bodies are designed to take in certain type of nutrients that were indigenous to this land, and we need to go back to it. I think we'll solve an awful lot of problems by getting people to. Robert F. Kennedy is hammering this home in the States at the minute, make America healthy again. Do you know what I mean? They realize where the poisons are coming from. You know what I mean? And they're going to try and start taking. Actually, speaking of poisons, what's your opinion on fluoridation of water? Fluoridization of water.
Well, it's definitely carcinogenic, and it also leads to a far more compliant populace, and that's not pie in the sky. That's fact.
Well, I know I've read that. So they're in the US, they're moving to remove it from the water supply, aren't they? Do you think that's something that could be lobbied for or pushed here?
it's one of those, Martin. I'm coming to the point where I believe that a lot of this lobbying and protesting and stuff like that is a waste of time. And what I would say is, what we should be saying as a community is, there's fluoride in the water. Fluoride does this, that, and the other. Here's the location of a spring well. Go there for your water. That's what we should be doing.
Good idea.
I genuinely think at this stage that the lobbying and asking politicians to do these things for us is played out. What we have at the yeah, that's what I'm trying to create, and I'm going to say that to everyone when we're down there, is a parallel society. And I think engaging with an awful lot of these politicians and engaging with a lot of these lobbyists is pointless. I think we will be the change we want to see, which means, up the road from here, there's a spring well, and we go to the spring well, we get our water from the spring well. Now, if you want to wash your dishes or something like that with the tap, and you want to wash your clothes, as I says, we're hooked to the mains here for that kind of thing. But what I want with the animals here is to fabricate a trailer that I can drive down to the river, pump an IBC tank of water, and then go around and water the animals with that IBC trailer. And then I know I'm getting water from the river from them. Then collect the rainwater for the poultry, and that at every shed there's a gutter going into an IBC tank. And then all of a sudden, what you've done is you've assured that even the animals is drinking better water than what's coming out of the tap. Do you know?
Very good.
So
that's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Be the change you want to see. I genuinely think, Martin, the lobbying and the political. You seen today's nonsense going on in the Dáil, I presume.
You get what you vote for. I watched a short clip of it on Twitter, and I just put up that thing. I said, you get what you vote for. And like, if people can't realize now what they're governed by, then there's no hope for them. No hope for them.
Well, we have two, just with regards to the water, you have two choices. You can get it from a spring well, or a well that you drill yourself, or you can ask one of them clowns to change the entire water system. Which do you think is more likely to help you? It's to go to
I'm going to start digging in the morning. I'd have it done before they'd even fucking table the motion.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Martin, there's a hell of a lot of spring wells in the country still accessible. It's just that people have forgotten their locations and stuff like that. So one of the things that, and I'm only thinking it here, but it's very achievable for our group, is to have a grid, a map of Ireland and just
That's
locations.
Yeah. It's probably available. There's probably a historical archive somewhere online. I actually know a man that can go digging for that now. So that's a brilliant one. I'll take that one on for you, and I'll try and have it for Sunday, if possible. So Sunday, what's the ask for Sunday? So have you a number cap, or do you want as many people to turn up as possible?
Well, I'll tell you, I got a bit alarmed today because I was contacted by a few people who said there was a notorious crowd coming. So I got one of those 30-litre boilers for making the tea. Do you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's due to start at 12. So I'm thinking, if people are there for 12, we'll have a cup of tea and a few sandwiches and mingle a little bit with each other. And then hopefully I will give the talk beginning at around 1:45, 1:00. And then we'll make our way around the farm, and I can just explain to people what we wish to achieve in the first season, which is from now until Patrick's Day. And yeah, that's it. Everyone is welcome. I don't have a cap on numbers, do you know?
So just somebody's asking there, what's he doing on Sunday and where? DM James. What's the best way to contact you? Actually, what's your favorite way to be contacted if somebody's reaching out?
if they go to the jamesconwayexperience.com, that's the website, and that gives a list of the medias we're using, and then the contact details is on all of them. So we also have an email on that, and we can get back. But what we're doing on Sundays, we're basically, they must have missed the beginning of the show, I take it. But we're having a meet up on my farm, and we're moving towards a parallel society that's producing food, having skills exchanges. Now, apparently, we're going to list out all the wells where you can get drinking water in the country.
We'll try anyway.
Yeah. All of this is going to develop it. Like I've been speaking to David Riley in Galway, and myself and himself are keen to do a working with horses demonstration.
Oh yeah, I actually found Dave on last week. Dave was my guest last week. We were talking. I'm getting to go on that chariot. I don't care, and I'm going firing the bow off the back of it.
We'll definitely do the chariot, and probably what I'm hoping is that David will be there for the Midsummer's Festival with the chariot, because he's done it for us before. But I want to have a Saturday or a Sunday where we show people the working harness, which is the collar, the hames, and the breeching, and we go through the old Irish working harness. We put a cart on an animal, and we show people how you work with an animal in a cart. Hopefully we'll have a swingle tree and show them how you chain them if you wanted to do harrowing or ploughing or that. You know, all of those things, skills that my grandfather and my father knew inside out, but it's lost now, do you know? I was the last man to train a donkey in Balnacara. So I have that title, so I do. I was the last man in Balnacara. Yeah.
And there's no one else around. You'd imagine, because like I live in rural Ireland, you know what I mean, and there's still a few old heads knocking around. They mightn't be doing it anymore, but they still have the knowledge, you know what I mean. That I was talking to you before about the likes of the men's sheds and things like that, and there's a wealth of knowledge out there. There's men who may be widowers and all they'd like nothing more to do now than get their hands on in the cleanest way possible a few young men and teach them what's what and show them how to do skills that if those men pass away without transferring that knowledge, we're lost. We're absolutely lost.
This is the funny thing, because when I done the TikTok video, it was my idea that if I got a group of young people who were interested, then I could appeal to the older people to teach them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's actually happened is people of every age have got in touch. And, you know, there was a few older guys. I'm 60 something. Am I ruled out? And I says, no, you're not ruled out. Yeah. It's just that I was making an appeal to get younger people on board. And no, it's looking very good. It's looking very good.
I think it'll be an absolutely fantastic day now, because even with the heads there at Knock there, you know, there's a cohort of very good people, very, very good people who want to do something. And like you said, the roaring and shouting and protesting and lobbying, it's not working. It more than likely is never going to work. Now, saying that, we still need some form of government at some point, whatever collapses we're facing into, because I know you're well wide to the world and the impending financial doom that's on the horizon, and some other bits and bobs that are you know what I mean. We don't want to be scaring people, but there's some tough times ahead, like, and but regardless of that, we still need some form of government. Now, I want it to be a very, very, very small government, a very, very unintrusive government that basically, you know, the very, 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 very basics, like, you know what I mean, that you know what I mean, roads, so we can get from A to B. And outside of that, I really can't think of anything else I want them for, because I don't choose any of the services. You know what I mean? I don't get sick, touch wood. I don't go to doctors. I don't go to hospitals. My kids are nearly all grown up, so I've one left in the education system, and he's not going to be there for much longer. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I need government for nothing. So I think they should be there, but you shouldn't ever feel them. You know what I mean?
No, but the other side of it, though, Martin, is the more people who learn to do without them, the less relevant that they have.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And what I like, there's two wonderful women up here, Freike and Linda, and they do their own remedies for flus. They do their own
Oh yeah.
remedies for sore throats, all that.
Yeah.
And like, if you go to them and say, "Geez, I have such an issue," you know, they'll give you a jar of stuff and say, take a spoon of that before bed and another spoon in the morning, and then you're all right. Do you know?
Yeah.
They definitely, how do I say it? Government has become a very large thing now, and there's no requirement for it to be so large. But the truth of the matter is, there's people kind of realize what's going on, which is there's less and less demand for human labor. So they're creating these kind of nonsense jobs to keep people in work. And I'm afraid that AI is going to finish that off. So it is.
Yeah, well, look, if Trump does even half of what he says, Ireland is probably looking at huge amounts of unemployment. I think of the two massive employers in my neck of the woods would be Boston Scientific and Abbott, and they employ they employ half of India, but also an awful lot of the locals, and like those businesses are at risk in the long run. Like, you know what I mean? It depends what happens with corporation tax. It depends on what sanctions he's going to put on the products and stuff like that. Half of Dublin is employed by the giant IT, but again, it's half of India that's in there, not actual Irish nationals. So yeah, there's some very very interesting times ahead in relation to what when the gravy train runs out and there's no. So I'd say it straight out. We have a welfare problem in this state. We do, like, you know what I mean. There's a lot of. I'd be very of the mind that you need a safety net there for those who genuinely can't. You know what I mean? Whether it be disability or mental illness or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You have to have a small bit of safety net there for those people. I have no empathy or sympathy for those that won't.
Yes.
And I'd be very very hard on them.
Yeah, but you see, this, Martin, you have identified the problem. I've identified the problem. For the past 5 to 6 years, we've been trying to tell people about the problem. I just think the moment now is to say, before all the consequences of this come to bear, I'm just going to move away slightly and do what I know has to be done for me and my family and my group of people. And, you know, I'm laughing at the moment. The government is terrified of you know, they make out that they're terrified of this far right. The truth of the matter is, we've been marching up and down the road, and we've been trying to tell the ordinary people what's about to occur. What the government should be worried about is the ordinary people that they have lied to. It's them that's going to turn on them. We've already turned. We've seen it miles away, and we've tried to point it out. If imagine you're someone who has received all your jibby jabs, and you have the corporate job, and you've been told, listen, you're on the gravy train now until you retire, and then the gravy train job goes. You're told, oh, by the way, we've poisoned you, and you actually have absolutely no other skills that are of any use. That's the person that's going to turn on government. Do you know?
Would you be the type that would say "I told you so"? Or would you just?
Well, I went and for the love of me now, I can't get it. But I went up to the GPO a year or two ago. Dolores Cahill, fair play to her, was there to witness it, and I stuck a A4 sheet of paper that outlined what Ireland had to do to return to normality. And the biggest thing that I mentioned in it was forgiveness. You have to forgive the people for being led down a merry path. Do you know? And yeah, I done that. And as I says, I've went in front of the people twice now, and both times they have told me you're wrong. So I have to accept that. I have to accept that they think I'm wrong, and I have to go away and do my own thing. Do you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. That was one of the funniest videos you ever did, though. I still don't know. Did the radio interviewer get it?
I don't think.
I think it just went straight over his head. Let's look. We'll talk about that, right? So I obviously know you, or I met you and know you briefly just through politics. But before that, you ran as a kind of an independent local councillor almost 10 years ago. Was it 2 election cycles ago? What were you? You were in your 20s, yeah?
I was in my 20s, and I ran in the 2019-2020 general election. Now, 2 years before that, I took a lot of flack up here because it was the time of the Syrian war, and I went on the radio station, and I basically said, if Ireland, so what happened was in Ballahadreen, they had a hotel that the community was told was going to be put back to a hotel for the benefit of the community. And then it became an IPAS centre for Syrian refugees. And I went on the radio and I said, if we do this, we're sending a message to the world to send more. And everyone said, you're a racist, this, that, and the other. But I'm telling you, my words came through, because that was probably 2017 or 2018. So I ran in 2019, 2020, and basically the only thing that I didn't predict was the COVID. I didn't predict the COVID, do you know? But I highlighted that the repo market had collapsed, and that was inevitably going to result in money printing and inflation. And I don't think we've seen the end of inflation. What I think has happened is, I think America, and it's a minor miracle as far as I can see, and how they've pulled it off, I don't know, but they seem to have steadied the dollar and held the dollar that it will remain. But the pound sterling, the Canadian dollar, the euro, they're gone. Forget about it. It's
We see
finished.
that. You see
It's done.
nobody wants to take the plunge at nobody. The market is alive, right? The market is its own beast, right? And nobody wants to risk. Although they say they want the end of the petrodollar, no one's willing to pull the plug on it because it's an unknown. You know, you do not know what happens, because like BRICS are. That was kind of their goal. You know what I mean? To undermine the petrodollar. But
Yes,
but they're wise enough. They're wise enough to know that they don't know, and that's the worry. Nobody knows what the ripple effect of that would be like. That could cause a chain reaction similar to what happened with Lehman Brothers, but I mean genuinely global. As in, you could have every now look. We talk about money and finances and stuff like that. I suppose the biggest thing to tell people is none of it's real. Money technically doesn't exist, people, but that's another conversation.
The biggest, and it's a funny thing. Money, as defined by Karl Marx, Milton Friedman, the Austrian School of Economics, you go across the board, they all write the same thing, which is money is a commodity. Now, a commodity would indicate gold, silver, sheep, cattle, anything that has tangible value. The minute that you change money from having a tangible value, it becomes fiat. And the only reason that fiat has value is by decree. It's a government telling you that this thing you're using has value. Well, that falls apart when the people lose confidence in the decree. So what I would be saying is, looking at the Dáil today, you are going to see an undermining of the general populace's trust in those governments. Now, this is all by design. If anyone thinks what happened today in the Dáil was a coincidence, they're very foolish. Mm-hmm. Ireland is working towards undermining everyone's confidence in national conglomerates. Now, this is to bring in international governance. If they can undermine the government, the general populace's belief in the government to such an extent that you think it might actually be better to have a European government just in charge, or that's the end goal. Now, what Trump...
District 7 of the federal states of Europe. Yeah, that's what we'll be.
But what Trump has done is very unique in America. He has completely thrown the global agenda under the bus and basically said, this agenda that we are running with globally is stifling my own country. So if I release my own country from it, my own people can return to wealth and be better off than the rest of the world. Now, this is very interesting because America is such a large economy buying things. If he unbridles the American economy, China then doesn't want to fall out with America because they sell the majority of their goods and services to America. So this is where the tariff thing comes in. I genuinely believe that America, if you are a young man or a woman watching this and you want to make a killing, I'd be heading to America. What I would hope you'd do is stay here and make Ireland a better place, but I have understanding, you know. And yeah, I think Ireland is in for a world of pain. Now, it doesn't bother me because I grow my own food. I have my own livestock. I can kind of circumnavigate this. But I would be saying to a lot of people, if you're in an American corporation at the moment, in a job that is either replaceable by AI or your job is kept by government decree, as in you're a DIE hire, you're in a lot of trouble. And you're going to be in a lot of trouble very quickly. Very quickly. So people have their option now at the moment to skill up and to pursue a different type of lifestyle. Ireland will be a great place, in my humble opinion, to have a homestead if you're content with having a few sheep and a few hens and cutting a bit of turf and having a fire. Ireland will be a great place to be. If you think you're going to live a very flash lifestyle, you're in for a very big surprise. Very big surprise.
There's a great saying from Graham Linehan's father Ted. You know, Mrs. Doyle says, you know, maybe I enjoy the misery. That's what Irish people. That's what our lives should be. I think there's great truth in that. You know what I mean? But sure, there's nothing wrong with a bit of hardship. There's nothing wrong. And you see, I don't care what anyone says. We got soft. We got soft when we got money. And I'd rather a hard, poor people than a soft, rich people, because money is one of the roots of all evil, as far as I'm concerned. Greed, the world is run on fear and greed. You know what I mean? And the fear that they keep humans under is debt. You know what I mean? They force you to borrow huge amounts of money so you can have your modest house, and then you just have the rope around your neck for you know till they put you in the suicide machine, is what they're aiming for in the long run. But I think if we can get out of debt and live simpler lives, because who needs stuff? You need transport. You need to be able to get from A to B. You need a roof over your head, and you need to eat. Outside of that, what you might want a lot of things, but what you actually need is very, very small.
Well, you see, this is the part of it that I kind of laugh at a little bit. You can see now a 2-bedroom cottage with a tin roof on it, and they're going 110,000 euro. You know, why can't you buy an acre of land for 10 or 12,000 euro and then build the exact same 2-bedroom cottage for another 10 or 12,000 euro? Because, you know, a lot of these cottages people are looking at, they are cottages from the 50s and 60s that fellas has just moved out of, and they're buying them because there's a grant for 75,000 to make it a new house, if you get me. I think if people would come back to reality, you can live very simply. You can live very simply.
Oh yeah, I'm getting simpler by the day, and I mean that in every way possible. But like I said, I'm done with stuff, and I worked in the corporate sector for years and years and years, and now I work with these, and I've never been happier. And I realized that you don't need now. Again, I'm in a lucky position because my kids are nearly raised. Like I've adult children. Like, you know what I mean. It's kind of I'm things are slightly different for me. It probably is not the same for when you've young kids and you're worried about birthdays and communions and christenings and all that kind of stuff. But none of that stuff matters either. Like, you know what I mean. It's all just keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
We just need to go back to a simpler way of living, small communities, know your neighbour. And I'm the worst in the world for not talking to the neighbours, but that's just my nature.
Yeah.
Like there's a nod and an acknowledgement that we're past each other and stuff like that. But we do need to build better communities and go back to simple things like checking in on. I don't know how many elderly people are living on their own that don't see somebody from one end of the week to the other. You know what I mean? That it wouldn't kill any of us to go in for an hour and say hello. You know what I mean?
No.
Do you need
No.
it? Do you want me to drop you back if I can drop the milk, or do you need a sliced pan or anything like that? Or you know what I mean? Just little things like that. You know what I mean? Do you ever? A question for you before we finish up. Do you ever wish that you just were a GA fan and you supported an English soccer team and you went for pints the weekend, and outside of that you didn't think about it?
No, not particularly, because you done all of that when you were a child. Do you know what I mean? When I was a child, I watched the football and all of those things, and I was concerned about the results and all of that. But at some stage, then you grow up. That's as fair as I'm concerned. Just because you're 5 or 6 foot tall and you have a beard doesn't mean you've grown up. There's plenty of people in this country, and they have the mentality of a child. Do you know? They go.
You could tell me what, there's 170 of them in the fucking hall. Roaring like school children. Fuck's sake.
Yeah, but you see, I just think we're at the stage now where we've done our campaigning, we've done our marching, we've done all of those things. Trump now, to me, has set in motion the downfall. I don't think he's going to be bad for America. I think he's going to be very good for America.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think it's like a set of dominoes now. He's came into the room and hit the first domino, and we're just waiting now for when it hits us. There was a firm there in Wexford the other day. I think it's 300 either let go or asked to relocate. Mark Zuckerberg's crowd has sent an email round to all staff, and it's either the 10th or 20th of February they're getting sacked. You'd be very, very silly not to figure out what comes next. And then there's a man there in Trump's cabinet, Howard Lutnick, and what he has said, I've sent on his documentation to John Waters and several other people. He knows Ireland inside out. He has wrote down exactly the tax fiddle that's going on, and he's going to put an end to it. The first email there, I read it last night. So it was on a cryptocurrency group, because they were expecting that Trump would say in his first things that cryptocurrency was to be the backing for the currency, or that. He never mentioned cryptocurrency at all. But what he did mention was making America safe again, which was close the borders, deport the people, 75 days, I think, of a block on foreign aid until the hurricane ones in North Carolina, and that is all sorted. But in the next program after that comes, where is my money? Why is my country's money not in my country? And Ireland is in for an absolute shitstorm when that happens. And look at what we've done. We gave Biden, we rolled out the red carpet for Biden. We brought him to Knock. We brought him to Ballina. He was on RTE. What did they do for Trump when he visited? He had to go to his own hotel below in Clare and provide his own security. So I don't see how he's going to be kind to us. And a funny thing is the NYPD Irish pipe band played at his inauguration. But I'm talking to fellas in New York and New Jersey, and what they've said is the Irish Americans support Trump 100%, but they can't understand what the fuck has gone on at home. And they're telling their Republican representatives there's something sick at home in Ireland. Something strange has happened, and please solve it. Do you know? So that's where it's at. That's where it's at. We are in for a world of trouble.
Excellent. On that absolutely terrifying note, we're going to wrap it up because I've even run over my time. I normally just bang it off at 50, 55 minutes. Listen, James, thank you very much for talking to me. Will you come back on at some point after the farm is up and running, and
yes,
after a couple of meetings we had, and we'll give a progress report.
Yeah, well, we have recorded last night in the studio an outline of what we're expecting for Sunday. Then we'll be recording again on Sunday, and then again in the studio after the meeting, and that'll go up next Friday on me podcast. So if anyone is curious about what's going on, but they don't think they might make it, there will be a video and all of Sunday and what we're outlining and how we're going to achieve it after. So if they keep an eye out for that, that'll be up as well. But definitely, I'll come on with you. No problem at all.
Perfect. Excellent. Right. I'm going to end the show. It's 2.5 minutes to midnight. I'm just going to drop you down there and just to stay on there for a second. Right. Listen, thanks very much. We're out of time. The hour goes fast. We'll talk to you next Wednesday. Thank you very much to my guest, James Conway.